I'd like to welcome everybody here to this Fairtrade Towns event. This is a very exciting new platform, and we really appreciate your interest and willingness to participate here. Fairtrade is a movement of citizens, of farmers and agricultural workers, of businesses and other organizations and institutions who are committed to a more sustainable future. The commitment is to ensure that our food and agricultural systems are more sustainably practiced, to ensure that our farmers and workers get a more sustainable livelihood, and to ensure that the environment, which is critical to all of us, is also being cared for.
I am Johnny Joseph. I wish to talk a little about WFTO, World Fair Trade Organization. Through the initiative of a few organizations, it was an effort to bring together people and organizations who have been working to empower the marginalized through a medium called trade, and to bring together buyers and suppliers so that there is a coordinated effort around the world in order to mitigate the poverty that we see around, especially in the southern part of the world.
Fairtrade Towns is a movement where we see citizens coming together with businesses, coming together with education institutions, with local governments to celebrate sustainability and trying to incorporate more sustainable consumption practices across their local community.
If we see today globally, we have around 2,022 Fairtrade towns. We have 39 countries, 6 continents, 14 capitals, 2 Fairtrade nations, and around 2,000 Fairtrade schools. The movement was brought into India in 2015, and Pushpanath Krishnamurthy offered to walk 450 kilometers from Pondicherry to Kotagiri, covering farmers, schools, businesses, and talking about the Fairtrade movement by increasing the awareness. Kotagiri, Ludhiana, Chennai, Pondicherry and Auroville, Goa are the few cities that have embraced this movement and are working together with steering committee members, with Fairtrade town supporters, and with the Friends of Fairtrade to take this movement forward in India.
Hello everyone. I'm Kanika Ahuja. I am the director of Conserve India. At Conserve, we do training in using waste as a resource. We have been working in Fairtrade since 2008, and we have launched the Fairtrade Towns movement in Ludhiana in 2019. I am a WFTO World Fairtrade Organization Fairtrade Ambassador, and I'm really excited to be here today for our conversation on Fairtrade in education and achieving the SDGs in education in India. Fairtrade wants to create a world in which justice, equity, and sustainable development are at the heart of trade structures and practices so that everyone, through their work, can maintain a decent and dignified livelihood and develop their full human potential. Today, we are in conversation with early adopters of the Fairtrade education philosophy in India. It is essential to also practice environmental sustainability, especially focusing on SDG 12, that is responsible consumption and production. Both of these principles together are necessary to create more holistic and conscious global citizens of the future. So starting the conversation today, I would like to introduce from Vidyashilp School, Miss Ritu Bali. We'll just have a short video to introduce her.
Come rise with me. Hear the winds of time, they're changing every day. I catch your magic in the air, and the fire in me, yeah.
It's time to see the light shining like a sunny day. Together when we try, we can touch the sky, touch the sky. Let's break all the cages, bring the wisdom of age.
happy to share that we are India's first Fairtrade school. In the last 5 years, our connection with Fairtrade has been extremely rewarding because students have been able to benefit a great deal in terms of acquiring skills that will definitely prepare them for a global context.
So I think by joining this Fairtrade movement, we feel that our students are becoming a part of this community, a part of this massive movement, and we strongly believe that the young generation, they are considered to be the change influencers, and we are happy that in different ways they're going to be contributing towards reducing, say, the impact on social and environmental exploitation.
So since it resonated with a lot of our core beliefs that it's important for children to acquire skills that will help them to become responsible citizens, we connected with Fairtrade.
So I think during the Fairtrade week, whatever the activities were required, we categorized them under some of the activities which would be done by the primary school students and some which our secondary school students were going to take up. And right from, I think, the formation of that steering committee, we started moving the responsibility to the students of conducting most of these activities.
Child came back and she was talking to them about how she couldn't find a banana in one of the supermarkets that she went, which had the Fairtrade label. And because we had introduced banana as one of the products that is Fairtrade certified, they went around, and it was really interesting to see how the child explained of bananas not being Fairtrade certified here and why not. And that's when we really felt that there was some level of internalization that was happening as well with these concepts.
We do have, we continue with having exhibitions which are around the theme sustainability, and definitely the focus being on fair trade.
Sustainable Development Goals 12 was something that really was close to us, and we really wanted to see how to take that forward with children.
In addition, the friendly football match, which was again to encourage that, why we should look again for fair trade footballs instead of the normal footballs. They had those as well. Practice of these fair trade objectives. So our students definitely have actively contributed to these learning outcomes, and to a large extent they've been able to heighten the sense of awareness to the particular cause that Fairtrade is working to. And I'm sure with more and more people joining, this movement definitely is going to be a great success.
Thank you, Kalai ma'am and Ritu ma'am. We're really glad to have you here today. Next, I would like to introduce to you Ms. Poonam Mendirata from Manthan School.
School, if I say as an organization, has always believed in nurturing and nourishing young minds to become responsible citizens. We are glad to collaborate with Fairtrade India's school program for its global approach towards UN Sustainable Development Goal number 12, which is responsible consumption and production. SDG 12 seeks to open a new world to the humankind where not just a few people undertake sustainable consumption, but where reducing, reusing, preventing and recycling will be common for everyone. Right, since the inception of the concept of fair trade in our school, students have been involved in various thought awakening events. So our students organized fair trade awareness activities like Nukkad Natak, Honesty Wall, the coloring of fair trade logo, doodling, presentation of what is fair trade, its approach and how it helps the farmers and producers to get a fair amount of their productions, and exciting quizzes were also arranged. They also put up a peanut chikki for parents, students and staff members. So they used to put money in the box and could take either the 10 rupee or the 20 rupees chikki from that chikki stall. Right, it was beautiful to see that our students of grade 3 and 4, they were talking about these critical issues and reciprocating back with the practical gestures. So it was giving me a feeling of fulfillment that every student of my school is honest, is taking the informed choice. When the students will be well aware of these choices, responsible consumption and production will be definitely catered to in a proper way. And it's not only student, we also made our parents aware of the same. So that, over the period of time, the thought process of parents, students will change, and I'm sure these will be the change makers. Students will be the change makers because they are the future of the country. And we are not only aim to be a recipient of Fairtrade School Award, but also to cultivate a habit of responsible consumption. So I wish a best of luck to the Fairtrade for such a nice initiative, and I really wish that soon it should be a huge movement which should be moving inside the country, and soon the India should be a fair trade country, and we should be located on the global map that yes, India is fair trade.
Thank you, Deepika ma'am. Those are some wonderful, Poonam ma'am, those are some wonderful activities that are happening at the Manthan school. Next, I would like to introduce Ms. Deepika Padala from Ebenezer International School.
See, education is, more than just a pen, a paper, and all those score grades, right? I believe in that. It's beyond that. I'm not saying those are not the important things, but it's beyond that. It is all about the future. It is about output-based learning. I think that's one very nice initiative which our school had done or had started last year, where we had a separate club called as Fairtrade EISB Club, where all the students who are interested will join, which happens every week. Weekly once, the club members used to meet. We used to have sessions dedicated for the club, and then we used to we used to talk, we used to discuss, we used to, talk about ideas, what can we do, what is it about, all of us used to sit and watch videos which used to motivate us. So that's how we started off with Fairtrade, and so far we've completed, I think, more than 10 activities, if I'm not wrong, and our students have been really, really amazing. They've been doing a lot of amazing stuff, in fact, to promote this goal along with Fairtrade India. I think this is one such platform where to be frank, I got to see a lot of the other side of the students, apart from the syllabus, the books, and all of that.
Thank you, Deepika ma'am. That's wonderful to have fair trade clubs in schools now. I remember in my time we had just started having environment clubs, so this is really good to see. Next, we have Dr. Nalini Ranganathan from Pondicherry University.
I've been closely associated with Fairtrade organization, mainly through the interests of my students. Though personally also I am very keen with FTO, but the interests of the students as well. Because social work objectives and Fairtrade objectives are aligned together a lot. Our university has always been a very socially responsible university. A few years ago, we got the Best Employer Award for employing, not only employing, but also our positive approach towards inclusiveness, where we encourage a lot of persons with disabilities to join the university. And so the students the students felt that we have to include and we have to understand the lives of people who are so far untouched, the unsung heroes, as we call it. Like for instance, we had this competition. We did a competition for our university students, which was like know your security guard, know your sanitary worker, know your gardener, who grew my food, who made my cloth. These are some of these aspects. So there was a lot of awareness out of these programs by understanding the hardships faced by daily wage earners. And this had a real impact on the life of students because they wanted to really do their best for improving the lives of these people and also contribute towards making this planet of ours a more responsible one.
Thank you, Dr. Nalini. So starting the conversation, I would like to circle back to Vidyashilp School. It has been involved with Fairtrade now since the last 5 years, and it's the first fully certified Fairtrade school to come up in India. Kalai ma'am, would you please like to share your feelings on receiving the Fair Achiever Award and what are your plans going forward? Also, if you've seen some behavior changes in the students, like in these last 5 years, we would really like to know more about that.
So sustainability is always an integral part of our school's core ethos. Whether it is encouraging all children to get into cultivation. The school, even in 1998, had allotted 1 acre of exclusive land for agriculture as an activity. So, to us, connecting our children to the source was really important. We have been engaging in a lot of sustainable development goal projects over the last 2.5 decades. The school itself, till date, believes in helping children connect with the soil. Whether it was 50 kgs of basmati rice being harvested in Bangalore, or encouraging children to be part of our paper recycling unit, using the paper recycled products, or looking at alternate energy resources being used within the school campus, are some things that we really wanted to offer to our children more than in theory but in action. I think that's been our core ethos, and Fairtrade became a complementary effort to all those things that we were doing for the last 2.5 decades. So I'm extremely happy. This came as an affirmation to our commitment and to our objective of trying to be in support of sustainable, creating, at least contributing in creating a sustainable planet. So we are committed. The whole school is happy about the fact that we have received the Fair Achiever Award, and that certainly inspires us to commit more to this cause.
Yes, thank you so much, ma'am. Big congratulations to you and the whole school for this award. It's a huge honor. And I know the road to it must have been quite challenging as well. Ritu ma'am, would you like to highlight like any points from your journey of how the school was awarded, the journey on reaching this award?
Yes, thank you, Kanika, for that introduction and sharing about us being India's first fair trade school. So definitely, we were absolutely delighted to receive further this recognition. And I think all these years that we have collaborated with Fairtrade, it has been just our pleasure to see the changes in the way students perceive information, the uh, sensitivity that they have started showing, in terms of whether it is their buying habits or even spreading awareness, the necessity to do so. So I think if you would have heard our students, they definitely speak volumes in terms of, how their entire thought process, we have seen a kind of shift. So if they participate in these activities, they do that wholeheartedly. And every year we have tried to include certain activities, increase that momentum, and that has been possible because of this excitement with the students at our school. So definitely, we would like to take this further, and they got the opportunity to have looked at different cultures, and we exchanged programs. And even while during the pandemic we were online, we did several online interactions wherein we associated with other countries, looked at what they were doing as sustainable development goals or initiatives, and then they try to take it further. Even now, they're working on projects with the help of the funds that they have received from these kinds of conferences that they have participated and presented their views, which is definitely encouraging for us. So certainly, we would like to see this build further. And we are happy for the fact that our students are going to continue to be the change influencers and contribute towards reducing this impact on social and environmental exploitation, I would say.
Yes, that sounds fabulous. I mean, I would just like to ask you if there's an example that you would like to highlight of the students taking up an initiative in the SDG 12 responsible consumption and production.
Yes, Kanika. I think during this pandemic, as many of our students did take part voluntarily in different initiatives. As early as in grade 4 and above, they started looking at how they could look at distribution of food, distribution of masks, and create that kind of awareness about why we need to be much more conscious about our uh, production as well as consumption habits. So they did volunteer, and they, got that kind of recognition also. But this is something which I feel, is necessary without even anybody suggesting. When they themselves come up with these kind of ideas and they come to us, reach out to us, I think it's a beautiful feeling.
Yes, I think it's key to have open communication between the students and you, and I think you're doing really well at that. So,
Yes.
thank you so much for sharing this with us.
It's a pleasure.
Poonam ma'am, I wanted to ask you, like CBS, Manthan school is a CBSE board school, so just generally, like, what were your motivations to get more involved in this fair trade movement?
Yes, no, fair. It's a CBSE school, and CBSE also, nowadays talk about various types of activities by which we always keep on involving our students. But if I talk about sustainable development goals, they are important world-changing objectives that require cooperation among governments, international organizations, and world leaders. And as well as, I'll say that it also require collaboration amongst the states who are leading as sustainable cities and towns and cities. So it seems impossible at times that average person can make an impact. Should we just give up? No. So it is necessary that, especially when touch the mind and heart of the students when they are at the young age, and the change start bringing or appearing from them, then it is definite that that change will be going a long journey, right? So every human on earth, even the most indifferent, laziest person, I'll say, who is amongst us, is part of the solution. I strongly believe that if we all work together and with passion as well as with compassion, it will make the world safer and more sustainable today and for the generation that will follow us. Generally, it is said that zero is a big number which decides the value of any number. It can change whether you are placing zero before or after a numeral or after a digit, then it makes a difference. But I believe that one is the biggest number, or I is the biggest number, because if one is not there, placing the value of zero here or there will not bring that change. So that one person is me. If as a human, as a citizen of India, as a citizen of this planet, as a person who is present on planet Earth, I take responsibility of my work and I start deciding that yes, whatever I am doing, whatever I am thinking is right, and whatever work we are trying to do is going to save this planet Earth, and my choices are correct, then this number one will be sufficient to bring that change. So we really support fair trade movement, because by this only we will be able to bring that sensitivity among students. And CBSE as well as our school, I'll say the ethos of the school is to give them that education which prepare them for life, and that life will only be there when we will be able to sustain this earth, we will be save this mother earth. So we are supporting fair trade like anything, and I really wish that every student of the school should support fair trade, and it should come into their thinking so that thoughts become action, and soon the entire world be so much sensitive that everyone supports fair trade. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Poonam ma'am. Those were some very inspiring words. I also just wanted to follow up, like you had mentioned how you want to equip your students with these skills of fair trade and of environmental sustainability. But do you think, what kind of skills do you think that fair trade and like teaching them about the SDGs, what kind of skills do you equip the students for the future which they can utilize?
See, I'll say, there is no plan B because we do not have planet B, right? So, whatever we have been given, out of this only we have to bring out that change. Even the small group of student, even the small group of people can bring change. We need to work hard and galvanize our actions. The need of the hour is profound transformation in the way we think and act. The knowledge, skill, values, attitude, they all are essential, and that should be cultivated early in life. And that's why, when we collaborated with Fairtrade, the kind of curriculum which is being run, throughout the world by this Fairtrade organization also, that is commendable. We need to bring that change in the curriculum. We need to sensitize them. We need to train young minds to become conscious citizens and get acquainted with the more skills that promote sustainable living. When students are able to visualize how their actions are benefiting the environment and community, they can find a passion for sustainable living outside of the classroom, and they will be carrying those ideals into their future as well as the world. So I really liked the example which Kelvi ma'am shared, that banana fair, it's a fair trade product. So when it comes into their fair trade, into their mind, that once they are picking any food stuff, once they are picking any clothing, or they are picking any sport product like football, they are just first checking the logo present into it, then that change will be visible. So as a school, as a principal, what I want, that it should come into the thought process of the student, so that soon it should be visible into their action. So collectively, small actions by many people, they will have a bigger effect on the community, and I'll say on the world. So it just reminds me few lines by Robert Frost, and what he said: the woods are lovely, deep and dark. The woods are lovely, deep and dark, but I have a promise to keep. Miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep. So we have to be into it. We have to take this, the fire which has been ignited by fair trade, we have to spread it further. And when we are collaborating, when we are doing it as a teamwork, soon the change will be visible. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Poona ma'am. That was very, very inspiring. Miss Deepika, I would like to hear from you. I heard you've taken a very innovative approach in how you have kept up with the fair trade program. Like we all know that the fair trade program for schools is very demanding, and it's very challenging. But you have kept up with it in a very innovative way. So just some information on that would be helpful for other people to follow.
Sure. First off, thank you very much, Kanika. And it's lovely to sit with the education leaders and listen to various inputs from them. It's very awe inspiring. Before I start off to answering your question, so I would like to, tell by saying simple, okay, it's our natural human tendency to become, alert when it turns out to be a problem or an issue, right? And then we tend to react or probably respond to it. So we don't generally realize it until that moment is there in front of us, right? And then we start to run around for looking, looking for solutions then. So why? I mean, why do we wait for that problem to arise? Right? Imagine if we were to prevent it instead of trying to cure it, right? And by this, all thanks to people and organizations like Fairtrade and many more who are trying their best to imbibe conscious decision making skills, right? Through the term which I really loved, which is called as ethical trading, right? Especially with respect to education, as our fellow leaders present here also pointed out, that what is more than igniting young minds, right, to attain full access to a better future, right, from an ethical standpoint. And it these platforms are structuring out the process, and in fact easing it out for all our students as well as us, including all the stakeholders of our who are present in the education sector, to contribute and consciously concentrate on SDGs, and especially when it comes to fair trade, and it is about UN SDG goal number 12, right? Where we focus on creating a society which can live in an equitable manner, right? Especially in our schools, what we are doing, especially we started off with fair trade, with the entire concept of fair trade during the pandemic. And when on the other hand we are struck by the pandemic, and we are all of us are trying to move on to a digital platform, on the same hand, we shouldn't be in a position to forget about the issues and those things which are happening around us, right? It's not just about the lives, it is also about the livelihood, right? And that's one driving factor for all our students here at AISB, where they came up with a lot of ideas as to how can we proceed forward in on online platforms as well, right? How can we push our contributions towards SDG, irrespective of the barriers which we are in now? So that's when we came up with fair trade clubs. We came up with various, initiatives as to how can we do it online. So during homeroom teacher periods, which we call it, which happens at the first hour of the day, we started talking about sustainability. We started consciously, engaging the students in various conversations, in various discussions, in various debates about SDG goal number 12. And then slowly we used to showcase a lot of awareness videos. We used to, conduct various activities with respect to goal number 12. So that's how, we were with this at AISB.
Yes, thank you, Deepika. Could you also talk a little about how this Fair Trade Clubs initiative came to be formed?
Sure, Kanika. So fair trade clubs, if I have to talk, we did not plan. We did not do the planning way before, right? These are all ideas which come up along with the circumstances and along with the situations, right? When we are physically present in school, when we are doing so much, it's just that, okay, fine, there are certain barriers while sitting at home, but still, why can't we do it? Why can't we still have a club when we are having many other clubs like the TEDx club, or other clubs related to plastic free campus, or many other clubs? Why can't we have a fair trade club which not only concentrates on UN SDG 12? We can always concentrate on the concept of sustainability, which is a big thing now, right? Ethics is very, very important now. If we want to see a better future, we have to do something right now. It's not just about us, it's not just about we being in the present situation, right? So because of the circumstances, these ideas emerged in our students and the faculty members, and that's how we started with this fair trade club, where we meet every week once.
Thank you so much, Deepika. That's so wonderful to hear.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Nalini from Pondicherry University is here today. And Dr. Nalini, I just wanted to ask you about how the Fair Trade Towns movement has had an impact on the Pondicherry University and its students.
Thank you, Kalika, and thank you, organizers and other speakers. It was nice listening to your experiences and what all your initiatives. It's very motivating. That said, with regard to what we are doing in Pondicherry University, as I already told you, we are a very socially responsible university. And with regard to social work department, our learning objectives are very close to SDGs. And most importantly, like even before the SDGs, we are a profession very much connected with human rights and social justice. So primarily SDG 12, if you connect it, it's there, responsible consumption, and that is very much connected with our objective. That's why we were able to bring in a lot of change. What we wanted to do was we wanted to involve the entire university in some activity. And going back to our practices, like even before all this, even as a, I mean, during even from our inception, what we have been insisting on our students is responsible consumption. Like for instance, we have made it very, very clear that we will not use plastics in any form wherever possible. So to give you an example, like whenever we organize any event, the banners will be 1 meter wide. So if it is not available readily, the students will make it. So we had trained students to make cloth banners, and it will also be recycled every year wherever possible, and no plastic, no flexes. That was, and it saved a lot. It meant extra efforts, but the students were very happy, and they would talk to us that they are very upset with the kind of flexes that they see around. And with regard to our curricula, we take our students for rural camp, so which means 10 to 12 days stay in a rural area. And our students come from all parts of the country. So one thing we tell them is no wastage of any sort. So no wastage of water, no wastage of food, no wastage of time. Okay, and that is also responsible consumption. Because we tell them that the entire village community is watching you. You have small children watching you, so they have to learn from you, and you have to be living examples. It doesn't make sense that you come to a rural area because you are there to learn and you're wasting food, throwing it around, sitting there chit chatting, wasting your time. So far, our record has been that not wasted food. Like there are 6 so far, we have made it a point not to waste food all through those 10 to 12 days. And many times at the end of the 12 days, we honor the people who have helped us, like the cook. We just hire a cook, but everything else the students do. So the cook is honored, we greet them in a nice way, we come and so that is all, we have been imbibing those values in our students. And on the last day of the program, invariably, at least 3 or 4 of the villagers will come up to the dais and thank the students for not wasting food. They used to be very happy because they are respecting the hard work. And that way, I think we need to implement this on every basis. But yes, with regard to, of course, SDG 12, in the year 2019, we had this World Social Work Day celebration, in which the theme was given by International Federation of Social Work as to promote the importance of human relationships. So then our students immediately came up with the idea of conducting competitions across the university. The theme of the competitions was Sustainable Development Goals, Fashion Revolution, Ethical Consumerism, Human Relations, and Accessibility. So we had very nice, competitions. Like what it was, you have to, go around the university and conduct certain interviews, like know your security guards, know your sanitary worker, know your gardener, who grew my food, and who made my cloth. So they went around and they did these interviews, and there were also campaigns. And the campaign was to help us this. How did it impact? So it helped us to trace the history, like from its origin, to know the people in the field, in each field, especially farmers, the one who's growing the food for us. We came to know about these students had a first-hand idea about what are the hardships of farmers and the ethical use of food products. And so responsibility whenever the canteen, more respect for food, and the way they were, the attitude towards consumption was there was a lot of change on that. And through this Who Made My Cloth, the students are more aware of this. Was interesting because this fair trade policy the students learned with regard to the daily wages, the kind of fair trade policy, and that linked us to the hardships faced by the daily wages. And through all these campaigns, the students were trying to make an effort to know and promote human relations. And apart from that, if we're talking about COVID response, our department had responded by reaching out to the single women of Pondicherry. We distributed dry rations. And even in that, I found that the students, when we, I mean, it was all through social media. And when we decided to distribute these dry rations, and of course, for documentation purposes, we have to take photographs. But the students came up with the suggestion that in no way we will put up these photographs anywhere of these beneficiaries, because they felt that that there is a need to respect the dignity of the person who is willing to take help from us. So I found that as a very strong point with regard to the factory policy, and I found that students have really imbibed certain important values. And also we were doing telecounseling, and students volunteered and they were in collaboration with the government, and they were able to ease out a lot of minute requirements from the callers, and they said that there was a lot of change of attitude to the customer. And I think this has to be a movement. This Fairtrade has to be a movement, and we have to bring in more people in this movement so that we are able to achieve the SDG 12. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Nalini. Those are some wonderful initiatives that you're doing at the university. Like, I think Pondicherry is a model town for everyone in India about how to follow more practices on sustainable living. And I think Pondicherry University is doing a great job to keep that up. So I would just like to add from my end that I'm really, really inspired to have met such passionate educators, and the campaigns and the activities that you're doing with your students, the communication that you have established with your students today, and the values that you're trying to build in these students on fair trade as well as SDG 12 and overall all the SDGs to just become more conscious citizens. This is extremely important and inspiring, and thank you so much for doing this for us. So now I would just like to proceed. I think we have some questions in the chat. And so if we could just get in your questions in the live chat, we'll be happy to take some questions for the panelists. While we're getting the questions in the meantime, I would love to ask Ritu ma'am or Kelai ma'am about how your fair trade journey, the certification journey through COVID went. Was it more challenging, or did you find ways to deal with it regardless?
I think
Sorry,
the digital...
Was it to me? Sorry, please go ahead.
So the digital platform actually helped students to connect with whatever ideas that they had. We did like in person, having these conversations and connecting them was a different experience. But I think students also have used the social media platforms effectively to kind of communicate their ideas and also kind of influence others. We are going to intensify, since now kids are back into the school. There are a lot of things that have come, and interestingly, the projects that children have done also kind of reflects the empathy and then their awareness about what they need to do as individuals to make a difference to the problems that we are facing. A 12th standard student for his ISC project working on farmers' problems as a perfectly imperfect project speaks volumes about how they are internalizing these concepts. So we are very happy that they are taking initiatives despite the challenges that are around. They're using this as an opportunity also to leverage the platforms that they are comfortable.
Yes, that's great, ma'am. There's also a question for you in the chat, Selvi ma'am, that you started with the fair trade uniforms, That's
Yes.
a big step, like across the supply chain. So, did the letters to the parents help? Could you share that story with us?
Yes, I think at the first level, the energy and enthusiasm that our students brought in, that was instrumental. I think they became the ambassadors more than the circular that I sent. But the minute we started interacting with our students and bringing in some level of awareness, along with what we already were doing, I think they started voicing and they started convincing the parents. And of course, I'm extremely happy that our faculty who played a very important role in trying to transfer that energy into the children. A lot of activities that we did to bring that excitement. So, first level, our whole focus was how do you create awareness and how do you enthuse children because they have the power to kind of make it infectious. And from there, of course, we did send a circular to our parents explaining the whole concept. And I'm extremely grateful on this platform. I also want to acknowledge all our parents. If it was not for them, it would have been difficult for us to switch to the Fairtrade certified uniforms. So they did. So it was a collective energy flow that happened. Children who were the primary focus for us, and their excitement definitely inspired us. Our faculty who were committed to this cause, and followed by that, the communications, the open, transparent communications that we had. We also involved a few parents in the steering committee. They were also instrumental in trying to help us in trying to figure out what it would mean switching to a Fairtrade certified uniform. Monetarily, it didn't make it was not a huge impact, but in terms of the life lessons that we were giving to students and the synergy that we were creating within the school community was something that was unparalleled. So I think it was a collective effort from all sides, and we cannot miss Fairtrade India as well. The team, because we were a pilot school, we also had an advantage of having whether it was Ms. Divina, Mrs. Abhishek Jani coming into the school, inspiring them. Also having many Fairtrade certified members into the school talking about it. And once we did this, I think having India's biggest fair trade, the biggest T-shirt in the school, and having 2,000 students around in an assembly, it just brought in a community feeling, and it just really kind of absorbed everybody into that spirit of wanting to do something. Uh, and at this point in time, I also want to share that we had the privilege of having the farmer from Gujarat all the way flying to our school, spending 2 days with his family, and the stories that they shared with our students, the connections that they were able to make with the farmer from whose farm the cotton went into making their uniforms brought a lot of sense to what they were committing to. So it is creating awareness, inspiring, and then trying to do the switch with collective consciousness.
Yes, this is an incredible achievement, ma'am.
And this
At
year,
all levels, the flow of how you have organized this, the flow of activities, how you created this excitement, it's truly commendable.
not only the uniform T-shirts now, even the trousers and the hoodies have been Fairtrade certified. So we are very happy, and that's because there was community buy-in to this whole concept and commitment.
Yes. Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, Kanika, when you said online platform, I felt, like certain places, like we began this academic year by inviting Mr. Abhishek Jani for a talk with our students, of grade 8 and above, 8 to 12. So that itself was a very good start point for us to once again, introduce this concept of fair trade, have discussions in class, and post which, faculty members were sharing that after the talk, there were topics which they were able to apply to fair trade, and there were a lot of those meaningful discussions happening. Post that, we were seeing that if there were projects initiated, ideas coming up, they were all also related on sustainability, and that was something which we definitely liked, and that was the start point. And I mean, online meetings and having these steering committees get together to now formulate what we are going to do for the fair trade week. That is also, I think on an online platform they're able to connect easily, was the advantage that we saw. So be it online conference with other places and countries, or it was within the school also, I think they did quite a bit even when they were online. And the projects, as Selvi ma'am was mentioning, do indicate how they are constructively working towards making a difference.
Yes, that sounds wonderful. I guess some advantages we've had with the digital world. So, can we get the next question? We have a question from Fairtrade Scotland that do students understand the difference between the Fairtrade commodity mark, the WFTO guarantee system, and product label? So in your schools, while you're educating about Fairtrade, have these different systems and labels been talked about? It's open to the panel. Anybody would like to take that?
I think at Vidyashal, there was this specific activity to help children recognize the Fairtrade mark. Spot the mark was something that we did. Show your label activities were done. And definitely they do distinguish between the product label as well as the Fairtrade certified products and the commodity mark.
Okay, that's great. I mean, I think the fair trade marks in India are still a relatively new concept. Even my peers and all find it quite hard to understand. I think we're still in a very nascent stage in the movement, but it's great that students are already learning about it.
And here I would also like to add on, yes, the kind of activities which Fairtrade people have shared from the beginning, and when it was implemented in the school, right, the kind of boards which were made and the coloring activity in the Fairtrade logo, and mark idhar hai, locate the logo, and purchasing and keeping those stuff which are Fairtrade labeled. So first the students were apprised of the kind of logo, what it is, how to locate it, where to locate it, and then it become habit in the students. So yes, students can locate, and fair trade organizations do help in making the steering committee, and when these informations are passed to the students and when they start working on it, then yes, definitely they can distinguish, and they have distinguished. So this is just a movement, and I believe that it would soon be spreading like anything. Thank you.
Yes, that's great, Poonam ma'am. Thank you. We have a question from Akshay to Dr. Nalini. How do you see the Fairtrade Towns movement expanding and advocating its principles in a place like Pondicherry?
Thank you very much for that question. I think the Pondicherry being an education hub, there's a lot of interest, at least from the university student side, especially after the competitions. And then we used to have regular discussions. We used to invite Anjali over for the discussion with our students on Fairtrade, and there used to be a lot of interest and a lot of discussions. And we were also, wanting an MOU with FTO so that Pondicherry University could spearhead this, at least in the education sector. And I think Pondicherry, yes, there's a lot of interest, varied interest. It's a very diverse place with, there's a lot of plurality of cultures. And I'm sure with the current scenario, though it's, COVID and all that, there's always been this concept of fair trade, which has been well received in various ways. So we have not documented it. There are various ways in which in Pondicherry you will find fair trade being practiced without much of awareness on that. People are not even probably aware of what they are doing. Like for instance, you have these now organic farming coming in a big way, and we find in Pondicherry this the way it's received is very encouraging. And also, if you look at the students, for instance, if you go to the students, and when you talk to them about fair trade, when you talk to them about how they can propagate this idea, it's always very received. And yeah, there's another question coming up. PU is very big university, different departments. See Fairtrade, the Pondicherry University program, adding skills to the future profession. How do you see Fairtrade University program adding skills to their future professions? There are a lot of departments, as you rightly pointed out: social work, Yes, and then you have food science department. You have the sciences. You have the lot of science departments, microbiology, and then pollution department of pollution control. We have a big school of education which there, and as I told you, in all these departments, they are very open to new ideas and innovations because, as I told you, the students are also from a diverse background, and I'm sure with an awakening on fair trade in various fields wherever these students are going to work, this idea will help in bringing in a lot of changes in the way they approach their profession. Like for instance, let us take the example of food science food science people. So when we talk about responsible consumption, for instance, when we talk about fair trade, I'm sure the food science department, if they have an awareness session on fair trade, they will be able to give their students, equip them with more knowledge about how to practice this in their profession, how to practice fair trade in their profession. That applies to across the university. We have to have a different package for every department so that it reaches out to them, and the applicability part of it is much more clearer. In the sense, what I mean is, it should not remain just as a concept. We must focus more on how it can be applied to their professions, and that requires a lot of contemplation, every department wise. And I think if that is done, I'm sure the student it will be much easier to take this movement forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nalini. That's incredible that you're also teaching them how to utilize the skills that they're taught in fair trade for all of their professions. It cuts across industries. We have a question for Deepika ma'am. How do you find innovative ways to bring in the fair trade element to everyday activities for children and the members involved?
Thank you very much for the question. So, innovative ways to bring in fair trade element to everyday activities for children. Very interesting question. When it comes to innovation, it's again all about collective minds, right? It's all about knowing more, right? So until now, if I have to answer, maybe only a couple of us knew about fair trade. But now everyone at Ebenezer does know about fair trade and their objectives in achieving, responsible consumption and production. So, especially, events like the designation awards, which happened the other day, where fair trade gave us an encouragement to contribute more. For example, this YouTube live, or it is very inspiring. I think these are the situations where we come up with a lot of innovations, right? And it's very inspiring to see learners, from varied schools contributing towards the global movement. And when it comes to our school and what we can do in terms of innovation, or what we did in terms of innovation, even though it was a digital, the entire platform was digitalized, is the concept of earning a living wage, right? That was one of the inspirations behind our students, and that's when they started being more engaged in the fashion revolution, where many students came up with writing letters to the CEOs of the fair trade labeled products, all the CEOs who are producing and who are tied up with fair trade. Additionally, our faculty members also came together in order to create a lot of awareness videos where they showcased what is fair trade, created an impact about how people are affected, how the producers are being affected. On the other hand, it's not just about the people who are buying the products, but also people who are producing the products behind, right? They should also be kept in mind. These all circumstances created probably a lot of, I think these are the circumstances where students came up with various ideas. And also we conducted an exclusive webinar which was called as "The Change is the Beginning of Us," right? Where we called in Mr. Abhishek Jani and also the CEO of Indian Terrain, where they spoke about a lot of things as to how fair trade goes about and what is the certification, how can the young minds, right, the roots of our society can contribute towards a sustainable future. And things like those, even though it's a, you know, it's a digitalized world, I think those are kind of innovations which came up during this season. I hope I answered the question.
Yes, Deepika ma'am, that was so wonderful to hear. To simplify complex concepts like that of fair wages and minimum wages, I think that's a lot of that's a big step taken towards teaching about fair trade. So thank you for this. I would just like to invite you for some closing remarks. And Poonam ma'am, could we go with you? Just anything for closing remarks for this session?
So I will say that, fair trade has not only changed the thought process, it has become more sensitivity among the students and every human being. Right now, kids are empathizing with the farmers, with the producers, and they are aware of the, their consumption, what exactly they are consuming and how it is going to make difference, so they can find that lead or that line said that from producer to the consumer what kind of effect it is bringing. So I believe that that change, that sensitivity will go a long way, and students will be more sensitive, and we will seeing the change very soon in the thought process as well as in the actions of our young minds. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Selvi ma'am, would you like to go next?
Yes. So if we really want responsible consumers, and if we want to nurture responsible consumer behaviors in students, it is now. I think we need to really, it is a necessity at this point in time to enable our students to learn the right lessons. If they don't correct themselves now, if they don't make the right choices, they will also be the recipients of the consequences, and we don't want to see that. So we really want to inspire our students to become aware and internalize the need for the change that they really wish to see, and they become the change influencers. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Ritu ma'am?
Definitely. I think when we see our students showing their sensitivity in action, asking the right questions and thinking twice as consumers, we feel, we're getting closer to our objectives and also the core values of our school. I mean, if we just see, it also resonates with the core values of our schools. And most importantly, they recognize the importance of considered choices is something which is very important, I feel.
Thank you, ma'am. Dr. Nalini? Professor Nalini, your mic is on mute.
Okay. I think as a nation, we are always been fair earlier, that is fair to whatever services that we availed of. In fact, we were a barter system based society, and as a nation, we were that ways. Maybe now things have changed. I think there's. I mean, I'll give you a small example. Once we had this person to come in, and he had to cut a tree on the road. It was blocking the traffic, and the road had to come up, and it was a very light tree, and the tree was really huge, and we were all feeling very bad about it, but nothing could be done because, I mean, it had to go. It had to go. You know how it is. So this person came. He just walked around the tree, touched the tree. He just went and did a pranam. He fell in front of the tree and stood 2 3 minutes in prayer, asking for an apology. All of us there were very upset, and we were feeling very bad. But then this gesture of this person, the way he was approaching to the profession that he was committed to, like, yeah, his work was to cut. He was a good cutter, but anyway, he had to fell the tree because, I mean, it was part of the system. So that approach, and then after that also when he expressed that he was also not happy doing it, then I think somewhere it was we were always been practicing this kind of the feel and the emotional connect. It was always been there, and it's now time to go back we need to reconnect to those roots of ours, and we have to bring our youngsters to the fold, who are, I'm sure are responsible, are willing, and who are more than happy to get converted into, as I say, into these practices again. But yes, it will take time. We have to be patient. But as I've told by all the other panel members, I think we are not very far off from when we are going to make Fairtrade as our everyday practice. So collectively together, we can. So thank you very much for this opportunity. It was nice listening to a lot of young minds and how they're working with schools and with tough challenge and how nicely they're doing it. So congratulations to all the other panelists as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nalini. Deepika ma'am, would you like to add your comments, please?
Yes, sure. Not taking too much of your time. So, creating a balance between the factors of production will, in fact, leave an impact on the sustainable goals of United Nations as well. So, imagine if this action becomes a little wider, right? A ripple effect. So it's not just about us and few, but it is also about all of us and more. It's about collaboration, right? It's about leaving that mark, right? So when more hands come forward to hold the rope, then we can probably even move a mountain with it. So, but again, how much time we take to achieve these sustainable development goals is also very important, right? We can't take it forever. We have to do it now. So I would like to see our future stalwarts contributing towards these sustainable development goals from now and from within. Also, thank you all the panelists and the entire Fairtrade team for these brilliant initiatives and ideas. I hope the change you are trying to see within yourselves and from the people around you will, make a huge impact. It did in me, and I hope it will do for all of us. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Deepika ma'am. Such great words to end this show, end this conversation with. But I just wanted to add, this conversation has been so joyful, and it's so nice to see such visionary educators making such strides in wholesome education and not just the, academic things that we used to do. And it's been really nice to have this conversation with you today. And I just wanted to thank you. And I'm sure everybody watching is just going to have a brighter day because of the positivity and in change in students that you're bringing. So thank you for doing this. And of course, thank you to Fairtrade Towns India for organizing this. I'm sure for me, for everyone watching, this has been extremely insightful. And it's just been a great conversation. Thank you.